And we are back here on Weather Command, and as we brought you at the top of the show, Eric is now a hurricane, the second hurricane of the Eastern Pacific season, and we are talking about a life-threatening landfall tomorrow along the Mexican coastline. The latest stats that we have on Eric, which is now a hurricane, those winds are sustained at 75 miles an hour. The National Hurricane Center talking about how Eric is presenting on satellite this morning, and there has certainly been a notable uptick in its intensity. As a result, that pressure is dropping 991 millibars now. That's the lowest pressure that we've seen out of Eric, with it now a hurricane. That threshold of 74 miles an hour, meeting that 75, and it's moving to the northwest at 7. This has been a notable slower movement, and with it being slightly slower during the day yesterday, over those warmer waters has allowed Eric to strengthen. And there has been talk that Eric could rapidly intensify. And the fact that we have land implications here, it's something that we need to watch. Hurricane warnings extend from Puerto Escondido all the way up into San Marcos. We've got Acapulco under their first hurricane watch of the season. I mean, this is the first landfalling storm when we look at both basins. You know?
Yes, and I think for folks that live in Acapulco or even just live in Mexico but know what happened in regards to Otis are rightfully uncomfortable, right? And there's a little bit of a PTSD factor there. You have a very, populated spot, both for tourists and locals, that was just decimated by a Cat 5 that had rapid intensification, and the intensity of Otis was not done well by computer models. It was completely missed. Totally. So when you go through that type of a situation, that is part of your makeup of your community. It's hard to get past that. And although this forecast is more in line, we're talking about rapid intensification. The computer models are locking onto that. So again, apples and oranges. This is not Otis by any means. But you can't ignore the fact that the local community went through that, and rightfully so, very uncomfortable that they have a massive hurricane that is developing.
That's going to do. The data that we get, in fact, in the discussion, the National Hurricane Center explicitly mentioning that their forecast is on the upper end of guidance. So forecast models are spitting out
about it.
one intensity, and the NHC is saying, okay, we're going to go on the higher end here, so this could be near a major hurricane. We get much more better data. We get real data later today. The hurricane hunters, they just took off from Biloxi, and they're en route on their way down to the Eastern Pacific, which you don't always see this type of travel, but it does happen.
Yes. And it's important because we are at the beginning of season. So sampling the environment in the East Pac for weather enthusiasts that are watching us, all of that real information. What are the actual temperatures in the atmosphere? What are the humidity levels? What are the wind speeds? All of that data literally goes into our computer models. So you have good stuff going in. Guess what? You're going to have good stuff coming out. And that history lives with the computer models because they rerun, every hour to 6 hours, depending on what computer model, every 12 hours. And so that leads into a very healthy transition where we're having really good model guidance. Hopefully that's the goal. So, to have this raw data is important.
The track itself is concerning in that, depending on, and we don't want to get too caught up on the cone, but from an intensity standpoint, there's a reality that at its peak intensity, we could have, if Eric stays right of the cone, make landfall as a formidable Cat 2, maybe Cat 3 hurricane. If it does stay over water, at least that core, most intense, that's worse for Acapulco, but there is a forecast now within the NHC that it will be weakening because those waters do become cooler, and the environment it's in right now is probably the most pristine, the most ideal environment it can find itself in. But that strengthening,
the location of that core is key.
Yeah, it really is, especially given how this thing has been developing. And with that uptick, we'll have to pay attention to it. Waters will be plenty warm. With the interaction, a little bit of shear, that might weaken this. But watching how at least our Fox model is thinking Eric will behave, it's going to, in a way, try to hug that coastline, bringing some very heavy rain. We've got the possibility of mudslides. On the low end, we could be dealing with maybe a foot of rain, and that would be concerning for the mountains of Mexico.
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of rain and wind. This would produce every threat that you can imagine with a major hurricane. The surge element at the coast, the powerful winds, and powerful winds moving onto mountaintops.